look at how the scientist has classified or divided these organisms, all the living organisms, into different groups. Scientists have already done this work. So, they have divided all the organisms in the earth into 5 major kingdoms. So, the 5 major kingdoms, they have given names as well. So, the names are Kingdom Monera, Kingdom Protista, Kingdom Fungi, Kingdom Plantae and Kingdom Animalia. So, today we will be looking at these 5 kingdoms. The previous lesson you have already studied how the scientists have classified organisms by looking at the order of classification. So, in order of classification you have seen that at the top it is called kingdom. So, the classification starts with kingdom. So, today we are looking at the kingdoms. So, these names or the kingdoms are not in any order, not like the order of classification, but these are just names given to different kingdoms. For example, when we are writing the kingdom, always we write kingdom Animalia, not kingdom animals, because all the animals are belonging to the kingdom Animalia. So, the kingdom's name should be like this. For example, Plantae means all the plants around you, around the world are coming under kingdom Plantae. So, now let us look at the kingdom. So, first we will start from kingdom Monera. So, this kingdom, the organisms belonging to kingdom Monera are the most primitive organisms, means they are not very well developed organisms and they are the smallest and the simplest organisms. Usually you do not find these organisms or you cannot see these organisms usually with your naked eyes. So, these organisms are very simple and very small and they are single celled prokaryotes, means they do not have a true nucleus. When you were in primary grades, you have studied about the structure of the cell. So, in a cell in the middle you can find the nucleus, but these organisms coming under kingdom Monera, they are not that advanced, they even do not have a true nucleus. So, here you can see a picture of bacteria. So, inside the bacterial cell there is no nucleus. So, only the DNA material or the chromosomes are there without anything bounding or any layer outside the chromosome. So, these simple organisms are called prokaryotic. So, here you can see the definition. So, a prokaryote is a unicellular organism that lacks a membrane bound nucleus. So, there is no nuclear membrane, only nuclear materials are there. So, these organisms are the most abundant in the whole world, as however you cannot see them, because bacteria are everywhere in the air, even in our body, around us, in the soil, in the water, everywhere they are there. So, they are the most abundant, but the most primitive organisms. And then here you can see what is meant by single celled. So, single celled means the organism consists of only one cell. It is a very simple term. And then here I have included some examples. So, some examples of kingdom Monera. Here you can see a structure of a bacterial cell, and then you can see some blue green algae, which you can see in lakes sometimes. When the lakes is covered with green color, usually that is because of the blue green algae, and even scientists identify blue green algae is also as a bacteria. So, now we will move to the next kingdom. So, the kingdom Protista. So, these are also very simple organisms, single celled organisms, but this time they are not prokaryotic, they are called eukaryotic organisms. It means they have true nucleus. So, except Munnaru, all the other organisms are eukaryotic organisms, means they have a true nucleus, the nuclear membrane is there. So, here you can see some examples. So, some examples include protozoa, ciliates, flagellates and diatoms. These things are also very small in size. So, usually you do not find these organisms. And then the definition for eukaryotic, because these new terms you need to learn. So, eukaryotic means the organisms whose cell have a nucleus enclosed within a membranes, unlike prokaryotes which have no membrane bounded organelles. So, here you can see the difference. Here nucleus is there, means a membrane bound nucleus, here only chromosome or the DNA material is there. So, that is the major difference, but you can see both are very simple organisms, but because of this and then we will move to the third kingdom. So, the kingdom fungi. These organisms are also eukaryotic organism. As I told you previously, except Munnaru, all the other organisms are eukaryotic organisms, and they are mostly multicellular organisms, not made up of single cell. And the structure of the fungi, when you look at its body, is made up of some filaments like structures called hyphae. So, this is one characteristic feature that you can find from all the organisms that belong to kingdom fungi. And fungi, they lack chlorophyll. So, what is chlorophyll? Chlorophyll is actually the green colored pigments that you find in leaves and other green plants. Actually, this, if there is chlorophyll, means they photosynthesize, they make their own food, but the fungi, they do not have chlorophyll, means they cannot photosynthesize. So, they are not plants. This is actually a misconception. Very often when we explain about the fungi, very often students will give examples of plants, but no plants can come under kingdom fungi because they cannot photosynthesis. Okay. So, how they are getting their food? So, they live as saprophytes or parasites, means their mode of nutrition is either saprophytes or parasitic form. So, then we will look at these two terms, again two new terms are coming, right. So, the saprophytes, saprophytes means the organisms that live on dead and decaying organism. So, for example, here you can see a plant, a dead plant. So, when a dead plant is there, then some fungus comes and start to grow over it, or they start to get nutrition from this dead organism and they grow. Or sometimes you can see the bread at home. When the bread starts getting decay, if you keep it for longer period, what happens is the fungus start to grow. So, they usually live on dead or decaying organisms. So, that is saprophytic form of nutrition. And then we will look at what is meant by parasites. So, the fungi are either saprophytic or parasitic. So, parasites are the organisms that live on other living organism. So, they either get nutrition from a dead organism, a decaying organism, or sometimes from another living organism. So, here you can see some examples. For example, some fungi sometimes even start to live on our body. We are living organism. So, living on another living organism. So, this is a skin disease caused by fungi, or sometimes you can see the athlete's foot, which is very common. So, this athlete's foot is also caused by a fungus. So, that fungus is getting nutrition from our body and it is living on our body. So, they are a parasite, but not all the parasites are fungi. That is, sometimes you may think that when we see a parasite, it should be a fungi. It is not like that. So, for example, very often you see the head lice on our head, which is feeding or the sucking blood from our head, and they are living on our head. Their shelter is our hair, our head. So, these organisms are also called parasite, but they are not fungi, because they do not have the characteristics of fungi, but they are also a parasite. So, all the parasites are not fungi, but fungi gets their nutrition either as a parasitic form or saprophytic form. And then we will look at some examples of fungi. So, fungi include mushrooms, yeast, molds. So, these very common things that you usually see around you. So, these are some larger organisms compared to Monera or Protista. And then we will move to the fourth kingdom. So, the fourth kingdom, kingdom Plantae. So, Plantae are the multicellular autotrophic organisms. So, all the organisms which are autotrophic, and if they are multicellular, then the taxonomists have considered them as Plantae. So, they make their own food from water, carbon dioxide, sunlight by the process of photosynthesis. So, here you can see a plant. So, all the plants are coming under kingdom Plantae. So, the plants, all the plants, they will be using carbon dioxide, sunlight and water, and then they make their own food. And these organisms are not single celled organisms. So, they are multicellular, they are made up of more than one cell. So, all these organisms are considered as plant, and they are coming under kingdom Plantae. For example, you may think at the beginning I have shown you a single celled organism, the blue green algae, which also can photosynthesize. They are also autotrophic, but why they are not coming under kingdom Plantae? Why do you think? The reason is they are not multicellular, they are single celled organisms. So, under kingdom Plantae, no single celled organism comes. Autotrophs, what is meant by the term autotrophs? Autotrophs are the organisms that make their own food. They have the ability to produce their own food, but here we are not talking about the fruits, not the fruits. Okay. So, making their own food means they are photosynthesizing and they make the carbohydrates. So, that is making food. There may be some plants which do not bear any fruits, but still they can photosynthesize. So, all the autotrophs have the ability to create their own food. They do not get food from other sources like us. So, they are called autotrophs. So, multicellular. The term multicellular means they are made up of more than one cells, and then all the plants that you see around you are coming under kingdom Plantae. And then we will move to the fifth kingdom. So, that is kingdom Animalia. So, Animalia means they are multicellular heterotrophic organisms with or without backbone. So, again they should be multicellular if they are coming under kingdom Animalia. So, multicellular, this time not autotrophic, they are called heterotrophic organisms, and they may have backbone or they may not have. So, animals with backbones are called vertebrates, while those without are called invertebrates. So, kingdom Animalia is mainly divided into two groups, that is vertebrates and invertebrates. So, these are actually the living organisms that you see around you, means the larger organisms. So, all these organisms are coming under kingdom Animalia. The term heterotrophic. So, the heterotrophs are the organisms that cannot produce their own food. However, they take nutrition from other sources. So, here you can see a good example. For example, these plants, they are the autotrophs. By using sunlight, they are photosynthesizing, they are making their own food. However, this rabbit, it is not an autotroph, it is a heterotroph. So, the rabbit is getting nutrition from the autotrophs, from the plant. So, always heterotrophs depends on autotrophs as their nutrition. And all the animals that you see around you are coming under one kingdom called kingdom Animalia. It is including you and me. We are all coming under kingdom Animalia, and we cannot produce our own food. Even these animals, organisms coming under kingdom Animalia, we cannot produce our own food. So, we are all heterotrophic multicellular organisms. Okay. And then there is one more question. The question is, can any of you think of any organism other than the things that I have shown you, any organisms that is not coming under any 5 kingdoms that I have just explained you? So, if you can think of any organism that is not belonging to any of these 5 kingdoms, please let me know. Okay. So, please think, is there anything that is not coming under any of these 5 kingdoms? I do not think you can find any organism. So, if we can find any organism, then we have to take that to the taxonomists, the people who are grouping organisms, and then I am sure they will classify them under one of these 5 kingdoms. And then here is a small activity for you all. So, here what you can do is you can just put your hand on a paper and then you can draw your hand on a piece of paper, and you can turn each of your finger into one organism of a kingdom. Here you can see some example: Protista, fungi, Animalia, Munnaru and Plantae. and you can be very creative, and then you can write some examples of organisms that is coming under each kingdom here. And you can draw the other hand on the other side of the paper, and this time again write the name of the kingdoms, and you can write the characteristics of each kingdom separately. So, is that clear? So, I hope now you know how the scientists have classified organisms into 5 kingdoms, and there is one more, because nowadays we are hearing always about something called coronavirus, right. So, this coronavirus, to which kingdom are we going to put the coronavirus? Can you think? Actually, coronavirus is not a living thing, it is not coming under living organism. So, the viruses are not fitting to any 5 kingdoms of living organisms. So, you can search more about virus, why they are not coming under living things. Hope you all enjoy the lesson, and thank you.